Today I'll expand on conquering physiological time and conquering chronological time. Listen, I'm going to define the physiological time. Yesterday I explained basic things about psychological time, how your perception and experience about the past is manifested into the future, either default or altered. Whether default or altered, it is fault. Understand? If you perceive in your past you were poor and just reproduce the same thing in the future as poor, or alter and reproduce richness in the future, both way you are a failure. Because the influence of the past will never let you experience the future with freedom. Understand, sometime, by the time you produce money, your taste about the life would have become matured. Then all your effort is stupidity. Freedom means freely, without the vested interests from outside or inside, letting your taste get matured and ability to go behind is freedom. Understand? Sometime, because you spent so much of time to get your car, even you don't allow your desires to get matured and go beyond car. You say, no, so much of time I have spent on car, how can I suddenly feel that is not that important in my life? Your struggle to forcibly feel something is important because you have put so much of your time on it, but in reality it is not that attractive anymore to you, is what I call hopelessness. Suddenly you feel hopeless. You think, oh God, I really thought I'll enjoy this so much. I put so much of my time, energy, attention. Now suddenly I am not enjoying it. Please understand, not only externally, even internally, you not stopping you getting matured is freedom. Many times we ourselves stop we getting matured because the time and energy we spent on this patterns, decisions, desires. Enjoy everything you want, not because you put your time, interest in that, or somebody else is constantly inspiring, pushing you to have interest in something. Vested interests, when they try to push you to have interest in something, or your own feeling, oh, I have put so much of time and energy in it. Free yourself from both. That is what I call freedom. Psychological time means past influencing you and not letting you get matured. Conquering psychological time means the load of your past, the perception, experience of your past, not sitting on your present and influencing your future, is what I call conquering psychological time. Now I am coming to physiological. Listen carefully. It's Mahadeva's definition on physiological time. I am only putting it in the modern day language. It's a beautiful verse and a very beautiful thought current. Listen carefully. It can free you from a lot of wrong concepts about you and life. All the ideas, concepts, thought currents directly binding you and the time physiologically. For example, everybody in my family lived 70 years, I will also live 70 years. Everybody in my family lived more than 100, I will also live more than 100. Everybody in the family has diabetes. This person also may have diabetes. The concepts about the physiology related to time, which you grasp from the family or society, knowingly or unknowingly, listen carefully, including the concept, at this age my body will change like this. At this age my body may go through this change. The concepts which you imbibe about physiology within the frame of time, and please understand, I am trying to give the whole thought current. So now what I said, that is one part of physiological time, means the time's effect on your physiology. The next, listen, this is the definition you need to imbibe. Your body exists. It's a matter. You perceive things happening around you. For example, you are seeing, I am raising my right hand above my head. But by the time you perceived, it is done. The time which happens chronologically and the gap you take to experience that in your physiology, this gap is called unawareness. Listen, I am raising my right hand above the head. After I finish that act, certain time is taken for your physiology to experience the signal and cognize that I have raised my right hand above the head. That gap defines the amount of awareness in which you are living. That gap is physiological time. How many of you understand what I am saying? In pure perception, there is no gap between happening and perceiving because oneness. The gap defines whether you are in oneness or duality. Please understand. That gap is directly responsible for whether you are going to enjoy what is happening or move yourself away from what is happening. Please listen carefully. If the perception is immediate, you are alive, active, aware, enjoying, you will never become tired or bored, you will not know how time flies. If that gap becomes a little more, then comes boredom. If that gap is more, then comes tiredness. If the gap is more, then comes hatred. If the gap is little more, then comes the feeling why time is not moving. Understand? Enjoying, feeling bored, tired, hatred, or feeling suffocated, all this has nothing to do with what is happening. It is all something to do with the happening and perception gap. What constitutes that gap? Why at sometimes the gap is less? Why sometimes the gap is more? Listen. If the gap is literally zero, when I am raising the hand, the gap is literally zero. If I describe about the ecstasy, Shiva Bodha, you will be having it. When I say intoxication of being Mahadeva, intoxicated by the bliss of Mahadeva, my facial expression is enough for your brain to release the bliss chemicals, the dopamine, which is happening in my brain now. The same thing can be reproduced in your system as it is if the gap is not there. Listen. The gap, the physiological time, you should also know why Mahadeva uses the word different words. He uses the different words. Vasana, samskara. He uses different words to describe what I am speaking. Means the psychological time and physiological time. Listen. Psychological time its effect on you will be there even when you don't perceive anything. For example, your mother-in-law does not need to be there. Her remembrance or memory is enough to torture yourself by yourself. Your enemy does not need to be there. That your enemy's memory is enough to torture yourself by yourself. That is psychological time. But in physiological time, it is actual happening and perception. That gap, it is more physiological. Then comes chronological. The source of the chronological time itself is you only. Your inner space is the cotton. Chronological time is the thread. The thread is made out of this cotton. We will go to that next. Now understand this physiological time. What makes that gap less? What makes that gap more? Please listen. What makes that gap less? What makes that gap more? In psychological time, what makes your life worse is incompletion. In physiological time, what makes the gap more and what makes the gap less? Listen carefully. Intention. Your decision for life makes the gap less. Your decisions against life makes the gap more. That's all. Intention. One of the most unfortunate thing happened to humanity is you have not been taught the amount of power your intention has over your life. You have been taught your bank balance, what power it can have on your life. You have been taught how your age can have power over your life. You have been taught so many things which can have power over your life. Unfortunately, not your intention. Your intention can make this moment as enlightenment, because happening and perception happening is not class. Happening is the words happening from the source of enlightenment. If the physiological time can be reduced now with your intention, the energy from where the words are coming, it can make the same energy happen in you. Practicing saying yes to you and the way life is available to you, whether you are sitting on the banks of Ganges and gazing, or you are sitting in front of your boiling bath and seeing, life is available to you at this moment in this form. The more and more number of yes for life reduces the physiological time on you, more and more no increases the physiological time in you. Listen carefully. I have defined physiological time in two ways now. One, physiological effect you go through, physiological effects you go through by your concepts of time. That is one. That example I gave. If you believe your father lived 90 years and you will live 90 years, you will live. Or if you believe your father died in 40 and you will die in 40, you will die. That is one layer of physiological time. The second definition of physiological time, the gap between happening and perception. Wherever the gap is less, you call that situation as joy, that person as your friend, or that person as your love. Wherever the gap is more, you call that situation as boredom, and that person as your, I don't like him. Somehow the vibes doesn't match. I don't know why, but I don't want to see him again. You use all these words. Listen. You need to know the number of no's you say is going to affect you. The number of yes you say is going to increase the quality of life of you. Intention reduces physiological time. Please understand. Anything, when you say no, the physiological time increases. Anything, when you say yes, physiological time decreases. Making your life blissful or successful is nothing but reducing the physiological time. Understand, this is what Isavasya Upanishad means when it says, Ishavasya midagum sarvam yatkincha jagatyan jagat tena tyaktena bunjita makrita kasya sviddanam kurvannevega jijivishet chadagum samaha. Decide for life means there is nothing to be avoided. Avoiding is more serious, dangerous than anything you avoid. Listen carefully. The avoiding intention is more seriously dangerous than anything you avoid. Continuous decision, intention of yes for life. I know you will have 1,000 questions now. Even when my boss is screaming at me, I am not saying whatever your boss is telling you, accept. All I am trying to tell you is reduce the physiological time. Reduce the physiological time. Don't allow unawareness, fight, incompletion, dilemma, powerlessness between you and happening. When the happening has no gap between you and happening, your heart becomes Chidambaram, and that happening happens outer and inner at the same time. That is what is Shivadandava. When there is no gap between the happening in the outer space and inner space, it is simultaneous. That is Chidambaram, that is Shivadandava. When there is a gap, Listen, when there is a gap, then comes duality. Then comes duality. The only thing which increases the physiological time is your intention to say no to life in any form. Your intention to say yes to life. Understand? I am not teaching you acceptance. No. I am not teaching you acceptance. Intention to say yes to life, do not translate that as acceptance when you are mapping this teaching back to your practical life. If at all you need a word, see, naturally whatever I am talking here, you will try to make it, you will try to map it to your practical life. You will try to make applied science. When you make applied science, out of that word, intention to say yes to life, don't translate into acceptance, translate into passion. Listen. You always feel whatever I am teaching is the pure science, and you will have to drag that and map it back to your life to make a practical application out of it. So if you are intended to do that, my word, having intention of saying yes to life, don't translate that into acceptance, translate that into passion. Even though the translation is not completely complete, it can lead you to completely understand what I mean by the word intention to say yes. A deep, innate know you develop about you is the first reason for this physiological time. What I call original sin. You believe your body is crime, your mind is crime, which is not. Which is not. It is not crime. Neither your body is crime nor your mind is crime. Your body and mind is the result of your karma, but karma is not crime. It is your decision which you can alter any time. Understand, that is why I am saying you are not from sin, you are from karma. Sin means only by suffering you can be redeemed, you can get out of it. Karma means by changing your intention you can get out of it. That's a gap, major gap between many religions and Hindu tradition. Karma means you have the freedom to change. Sin means you will have to go through it to change. Listen. Sin means you have to work offline. Karma means you can just change online. Hinduism gives you Wi-Fi. When the karma word is used, you are given Wi-Fi. When the sin word is used, you are given wife. Don't mistake. In a lighter sense. No, it's both. Come on, it's not. Wife does not mean only for women. It's both for both. I should use the word spouse. Okay. Men feel as if they conquered something. Come on. Understand. Intention, decision to say yes to your experience of happening. When your intention reduces, happening feels as if something which you don't want is all the time happening around you. When the intention is more yes, suddenly you feel so many fortunate things are happening around you. Fortune or unfortune perception is nothing but the physiological time. Understand? It is nothing but physiological time. If the physiological time is more in you, you always feel unfortunate things are happening around you. If the physiological time is less, you always feel you are blessed. There are tons of practical use when the physiological time reduces. Your ability to perceive will be so high. Your ability to strategize, relate with people, be a leader, everything will be 1,000 times better with the less physiological time. Again and again people come and tell me, Swamiji, I am coming to see you again after many years. I am coming back to listen to you after many years. Even now I feel you are exactly talking to me. When I left, then I felt, now again I am seeing you are talking to me. Many people come and tell me. Understand, when there is no physiological time, you know the intention of the whole people in front of you, and you know what needs to be done, how you need to respond to them to cause their reality. Less physiological time. Why I am using the word physiological time, what is happening in chronology need to be perceived by your physiology. The physiology's perception can happen immediately or in a delayed way based on your intention of yes or no to life. Something happened and you have a very big no for that happening. Your physiology can take even 2 hours to perceive that. That is what we call imbalanced, disoriented, coma. Something happened in chronological time, but your physiology is having such big no to that, the intention is such big no, so the physiology is not perceiving it, so the physiological time is so much, that is what we call disoriented, imbalanced, fainted, or coma. Sometimes you say, I don't know what has happened. I don't know what is happening. Reducing physiological time makes bliss as your state. That's what I call bliss chemistry. Any of you want to learn the bliss chemistry? In 2004, group of scientists wanted to do research on my brain. When they fixed their QEEG machine, the end result, they said that 600 times more amount of joy, 600%, not 600%, listen, 600 times more amount of joy, which can be perceived by human beings, is happening in my brain, in my system. They asked, how can this be? That is exactly Mahadeva describes as bliss chemistry. Understand? If the physiological time is reduced, even a simple breathing, inhaling and exhaling, or a small breeze brings so much of joy in your physiology, so much of ecstasy in your physiology. You don't need strong things to awaken that bliss chemistry in your system. When your bliss chemistry is constantly on, you are Nithyananda. Bliss chemistry has only one key: reducing physiological time. I'll just repeat the definition of physiological time once more. Listen. The gap between happening in chronological time and perception in your physiology is physiological time. The happening, now you raised your hand. Immediately, without even the micromillisecond gap, my system has cognized it. My physiology has cognized it. I am raising my hand above. The happening in chronological time and the time your physiology cognized it, that gap is physiological time. It can be increased or decreased based on your intention to say yes to life or no to life. For example, if you are deeply connected to me and saying yes to me, the gap will be just micromillisecond. But if you are sitting with somebody to whom you say no strongly, the gap will be even sometimes full second. Now, few minutes, try to internalize some incidences where you have become disoriented, fainted, or fell into coma means the chronological happening did not get cognized in your physiology for a recognizable time. Not micromillisecond and all. At least for 2-3 minutes. Surely in all your life some incident would have happened where it took full 2-3 minutes or 5-6 minutes for you to cognize physiologically the happening of chronological time. Am I right? All of you had some incidents. How many of you already remember some incident? Take few minutes and pen down those incidents. I'll help you to reduce the physiological time. I'll help you to conquer physiological time. Please pen down few incidents. Write some incident where you had a physiological time very cognizably big. Like a 3-4 minutes. Chronologically that has happened, but it took 3-4 minutes for your physiology to cognize it or respond to it. Sometimes even good things, you strongly believe the good things cannot happen to you. When that happens, it is too good to be true. The physiological time becomes more. The self-hatred, self-denial was so much. Even if you received a yes from the other person, some business deal, multi-million business deal, or first time you are proposing, your puppy love gets okay. Whatever it may be, even the so-called good things can be the incident when you had a very sizable time as a physiological time. So write some incident, at least 5-6, when the physiological time was more. It should have been at least 25 or 30 seconds or 1 minute or 2 minutes, like that. Very sizable time, not micromillisecond. That you will not be able to understand. Because you have to go back to that experience, that mood, and you are going to relive that. So only if it is sizable time, you will be able to catch that physiological time's chemistry in your brain. See, when there is a physiological time gap, certain chemistry happens in your brain. I'm going to put you back into that chemistry and release that pattern from you. Release you from that saying no to life. Saying no to happening. Go ahead.
In that gap period, there is absolutely no recording, or there is a denial to the happening, and then you accept
there is a rush of self-denial and self-hatred, and all the no's you said in your life. Actually, that moment is literally death. See, during the death, you review your whole life in few moments. Like that, all the no's you review in that few moments. Every physiological time is the time you die. The good news is you can be reborn. Bad news is you can be loser.
So
if you decide, you can be reborn.
Right. So there is a denial that has happened, and then after a time, it gets registered as
as happening.
Yes.
But by the time it gets registered as happening, all this denial has black painted it.
Right. Yes.
Understand? It has black painted it. It has become already pain. Even if you have received the multi-million-dollar deal or the yes, you start thinking, oh God, all right, I received, but there is so much need to be done now. Already, the no's are ready to make your life failure.
Got it, Swamiji. Thank you.
Even if you have received yes to the person whom you proposed, oh God, yes, but she will eat ice cream and finish off all my wealth. You understand? By the time the physiological time it crashes and goes, oh God, she will spend all my money in shopping. Means already the black painting is done. Without physiological time, even death is a beautiful door opening. With physiological time, even life, birth is a one more load. It is physiological time that decides bliss chemistry or pain chemistry. By and by, the physiological time starts even damaging your physiology, internal organs. Too many know for seeing can reduce the efficiency of your organ, not eye. Inside the eye, there's an organ called Indriya called Chakshu. In Vedic physiology, eye is not Indriya. Eye is not, it is only a tool. Behind the eye, there is something called Chakshu. That is the Indriya that records physiological times, knows. That is what we call biomemory. Unfortunately, the Western medical system cut only the dead bodies and learnt their healing, whatever method they evolved. But in Indian tradition, living human beings are always the specimens. The rishis scanned the living human beings and developed this whole system. That is why the important concept of biomemory. See, in Ayurveda, human body is bioorganism. But in allopathy, it is more or less like a machine. There is a big difference. The memory component is missing in Western medical methods. It's because our idea of Chakshu, the Chakshu only holds all the nose you set for seeing. That only slowly reduces the efficiency of seeing. Your physiological time, when it starts telling about on your intra-organs, Indriyas, that is what we call health collapsing or disease. In the Vedic tradition, if you understand one concept, you just understand everything. Because the whole thing is from the enlightenment of oneness. Suddenly you will see so many zigzag puzzles will fall in place. You will feel that many parts of your brain is getting lit up.